Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And that, I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and I run it back to things like that. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Into the Houston Show, powered by MaXSports on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. Got a great show lined up for you today. Want to invite you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Also, you can send your comments, reactions, and questions into the live stream. Join, share, and like the live stream at the Martin Houston 35, at Martin Houston 35 fan page, MaXSports and XO Sports on Facebook. Also, Martin Houston 35 on YouTube and the X/Twitter. Martin Houston Show powered by MaXSports on this Tuesday edition. You got the sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. Let us hear from you. The playbook today includes DC Capstone Report. Joins us to talk about Bama versus Chattanooga, college football playoff rankings, the greatest rivalry in sports, the Alabama and Auburn game. You know, it's so many young people. I wonder if they even know why it's called the Iron Bowl. It'd be a great question. I wonder if Noah even knows why it's called the Iron Bowl. You know, XDC, we may have to talk about that. I really don't know that. I guarantee you, most of the kids in school right now don't even know why it was called the Iron Bowl. That'd be a great question. You're not a real Bama fan if you don't understand why it's called the Iron Bowl. I mean, we may have to take your fan card if you can't answer that question. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about other things. Some interesting comments coming from Nick Saban regarding the nomination for the Assistant Coach of the Year. They nominated Tommy Rees. Does that mean they didn't nominate Kevin Steele or someone else selected Tommy Rees, or did Alabama even nominate Kevin Steele? So we can talk about that. We've talked about which unit or aspect of Alabama's game is most improved. Which OC which coordinator is most improved? We can talk about that. So much we can talk about. But most of all, we're going to talk about how Alabama is trending, whether we think they can get to the mountaintop, and what they need to do this week to keep the momentum going. You're listening to the Martin Houston Show, and we were reminding you that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X.
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Good morning, DC. How you doing, sir? Is DC? Do we have DC?
I'm here. You there?
Yes, sir. Got you now.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
All right. It's game week for Alabama versus Auburn, but we have to circle back on a little bit of Chattanooga. But DC, it just crossed my mind. The Iron Bowl lost its name or the flavor 34 years ago, something like that, and then officially lost its tie to the Iron Bowl, 20 something years ago. You think most of these kids even know why they call it the Iron Bowl?
I would doubt it. I would doubt it. There's not many Alabama fans younger than you and I would even know why they call it that.
Xavier, do you know why they call it the Iron Bowl?
I do.
Okay, all right. Noah, do you know why they call it the Iron Bowl?
I might have an idea, but I do not know.
Let me see.
Does anyone know who named it the Iron Bowl?
Now I don't know that, but
That I don't.
I do.
Well, you're old as dirt, DC.
Well, I also worked at the. I was one of the first employees of the Bryant Museum back before there ever was a building, so I got all the details.
All right, so let me see. Curtis Moore said one word: Birmingham. Name of Iron Bowl. It's what Birmingham, Alabama was known for, but I'm sure you'll elaborate more on it to the fans throughout the show. It is partly associated with Birmingham, but that's not the only reason. Who named it, DC?
Suge Jordan, the Auburn coach in 1964, when he was dealing with the reporters, they were asking him what about his team's disappointment of not taking his team to a bowl game, and he responded, "We got our bowl game. We get it every year, the Iron Bowl in Birmingham," and that was in 1964. That's what named it the Iron Bowl.
Is that also why Auburn put so much on this game? Because that statement right there, because
Suge Jordan made it bigger than anything that they ever did in the history, beginning in '64 and so forth. The more emphasis was placed on the Alabama game than any other game they played,
including postseason, because Auburn's success many times, like they will talk about having beat Alabama even when they've had a great season. They'll still emphasize that a lot of times more than even what happened after that, and that kind of makes sense now. I never heard that part of the story. Noah, so why do you think it's Iron Bowl, Noah?
I assume it's kind of just something like maybe the stadium where they were was related to like an iron production or something originally.
It actually is a iron bowl. The stadium itself is just a big, huge bowl of metal sitting right out in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of a neighborhood. So, but yeah, DC, you want to elaborate any on that? Because that's if anybody ever goes back and looks at Legion Field, it is nothing more than a big, huge what, DC?
Iron Bowl, and it's actually a symbol of the city. Right. Noah was quite a little bit right there. It's a symbol of the city at the time that it was built. It was the only city in the South that rivaled Pittsburgh as a steel city, and they built it specifically out of steel metal girders. Anything that they could make out of steel, the Legion Field was made out of that. And you got the the iron production of it started with the pig iron, the coke, and the steel manufacturing plants that was in Birmingham. And that's why they wanted that to be a big representation of what they were at the time, the steel city of the South. And it became known as the Iron Bowl because of what they played in, because of the manufacturing, and because Suge Jordan kind of named it that in 1964.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Noah and X, you guys probably don't realize, but there's been quite a few franchises come along. The Birmingham Steel. That's where they get the mantra from. But either way, that was just a little fun trivia. I guarantee you most people have no idea was ever even played in an Iron Bowl. You know, so so people that think it's just a cool name having no relationship to.
First game actually took place in 1893 at Lakeview Park there in Birmingham, so it had a history in Birmingham, originating from the beginning.
All right. So there's a lot of history there. Most people also don't know that it got so bad at one point they stopped playing the Iron Bowl. Thus, the reason Alabama is never mentioned, Alabama Auburn Iron Bowl is never mentioned in the conversation, DC, as the longest running, one of the top longest running rivalries, even though I think it's one of the greatest rivalries. It was because of those years where they did not play each other.
There's a 40-year
That's
gap.
exactly correct.
Do what, X?
And there's a 40-year gap, and when it 42-year gap from when it was played, and that is actually when the separation between Alabama and Auburn started, with Coach Thomas and Coach Wade winning all their national championships in the 20s and the 30s. And by the time that it was played again, Alabama had turned itself into this national powerhouse, while Auburn was still relegated to only really being known in the South.
Yep. The fact that they went out and won that Rose Bowl in the 20s probably put Alabama on the map, and then began to, from there, it kind of spread out and left Auburn behind. Speaking of behind, DC, Nick Saban's been at Alabama 17 years. In the regular season, he has a 6-6 record and a 9-3 record. The other 15 years, DC, he has won 10 games or more. Auburn in the history, their school's history, has 14 10-win seasons. Nick Saban has 15, now 16 consecutive 10-win seasons, but 14 consecutive 10-win regular seasons. If that don't make him the GOAT, I don't know what would.
Yeah, most definitely. When you start looking at the numbers, it just boggles your mind. We talk about what he's accomplished at Alabama.
It's absolutely amazing. And Chuck Hunt says that the conversation we were just having, this is the reason why Auburn gets fired up wanting to play Alabama but lose to New Mexico State. Oh, I had to be careful. I do have some Auburn friends out there, and we'll talk about that game as well. And does that help Alabama or Auburn in terms of next week? So I'll get your thoughts on that. Auburn paid $181.85 million to take a 21-point loss, a 40-plus point swing in Vegas. Whew. That's crazy to think about, but they paid for that beatdown. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about Bama, Chattanooga, get DC's thoughts there. We'll talk more about this team and what they need to do. We'll talk college football rankings, all of those conversations and more right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We have DC Capstone report in the conversation with us as well.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we have a wreck on McFarland eastbound before Skyland with some delays. Please remember that we had a lot of rain overnight, so allow a little extra travel time. And if you see conditions folks need to hear about, give me a call. Townsend Nissan's year-end closeout is on now with discounts up to $10,000. No reasonable offer will be refused. Townsend Nissan, and I'm Captain Ray.
They're back. The 2023 Alabama Crimson Tide football season is on Tide 100.9. Saturdays are game day all day, starting with the Tide 100.9 tailgate show, hosted by DC and former Tide star Christian Miller. Listen as they take you to the sideline and the locker room for all the latest game day news and insights that will get every Tide fan ready for kickoff. Don't miss the Tide tailgate show with DC and Christian Miller on Tide 100.9, powered by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products design smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Inc. Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
The Birmingham Racecourse Casino's 7 days of giveaways is going on now. We're giving away $125,000 in free play and cash at Birmingham Racecourse Casino.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Rain ending this morning, clouds lingering much of the day today, the high 69. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy and colder. The low tonight 46, the high tomorrow 54. Thanksgiving Day Thursday, mostly sunny with a high at 56. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 63 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Record, it seems like it's always a really competitive game when you guys go to Jordan-Hare Stadium. What do you think makes that place such a difficult place to win?
Well, I think it's, if we're going to have success there, we're going to have to execute. Anytime you play on the road in this league, it's a difficult place to play. This is no different. But people talk about all the crazy stuff that happens in this game. But since I've been here, the team that should have won the game based on who played the best. So I think the focus needs to be on, how we're going to play, and how we're going to execute and do what we do, and what kind of consistency are we going to be able to maintain in a difficult environment, which, we've had this challenge several times before, and this one's going to be just as difficult as any of the rest.
That's Coach Nick Saban talking about playing in Voodoo Stadium. DCX, without a doubt, playing down there is always a challenge, an opportunity. Nick Saban is saying people have I've heard some misquotes, because when he says what he says, sometimes I think DC people misunderstand what he's saying. He says the team who has played the best has won. I can agree with that. Because even though they had to kick 6, even though they got the 1 second back, even though we could have won those games, the games that Auburn won and that Gus Malzahn won there, they played better that day. The frustration for me, and the reason I think this Alabama team needs to be on its P's and Q's, and the reason you have to look at this game and go, here's another opportunity for Auburn to make their season and to ruin Alabama's, is because the best team hasn't always won. The team who played the best has won. And I don't know what it is about that stadium, but voodoo happens. I was a part of one of those teams that were clearly better than Auburn, 10-0, them 7-3, and they beat us like they stole something, like we stole something.
Roger Schultz has an opinion.
And cost us a national title. Probably 3 times in my lifetime, Auburn has single-handedly prevented Alabama from playing for a national title. At least 3 times. And all 3 of those were when we played down there. DC.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I think, and I think there's several factors that contribute to that. One is the atmosphere. You cannot say that the atmosphere is not passionate. The fans are passionate. They hate Alabama. They want to do everything. They believe that they can affect the game by the way they cheer and yell and get in the game. And so one of the things is the teams that when Alabama has lost at Auburn, I believe that you would agree with this, they may not have been Auburn may not have been the best team, but they were the best team that day.
Yeah.
And the thing that caused that was Alabama continued to let Auburn stay in the game, even though Alabama was the better team. And the advantage of them staying in the game switched the momentum. And as the momentum switched, Auburn won the game based on on their play and based on their fans and based on the atmosphere there that they were in. It would have been a different game if it had been played on neutral field, I'm sure. But that's why they call Voodoo Stadium there at Jordan Hare. I think I agree with Coach Saban. The best team of the day usually wins the game, but it's not always the best team going into the game. Right. And sometimes they let that get them. Alabama, in order to avoid that, has to go in, not play complacent in this game, and start fast.
X.
Yeah. When you look at this game, man, like especially after what Auburn pulled last Saturday, I looked at one of my buddies yesterday, and I was like, they're gonna come out playing like 2019 LSU, right? And it's just something about playing in that stadium that they just have, and it's magical. I mean, we know they're going to be celebrating the 10 years since the kick six on Saturday, and you look at the Hail Mary a couple weeks before that against Georgia. That stadium got something on it.
It's not magic, it's black magic. Let's call it voodoo. That's not given. It's not legit. It's not legit magic, right? DC. I was in DC in the situation I was in '89. It wasn't that we let them hang around. It was that they came out and they jumped on us and let us hang around. But
yeah, but they seize the momentum based on. I think when they play well there, they seize the momentum of the fans, and we can all discount fans all you want, but Coach Saban has even mentioned that he had never heard Alabama Bryant-Denny Stadium any louder than it was against Tennessee, and I think that was a great comeback based on the momentum switch in that game, based on things that happen on the field and based on the fans.
Yeah, and you can multiply that. You can multiply that by 100,000. When we played there the first time in '89, it was 100% the fan base, because this was pre-day all of the signs and all of the stuff where people have, football banners and cars and all that stuff on the sideline. So we couldn't run our offense, which was unstoppable that year. But when you got to check with me virtually on every play, and what that means is every time we went to the line, most of the time we had a run play and a pass play called, and based on what you did, we would change the play. Well, when you couldn't audible, you couldn't execute, you couldn't check with me, and that's the cornerstone or the backbone of your offensive philosophy, then you lose. And that's what happened. We adjusted at halftime, and then we were able to do some nice things moving forward. Talking about adjustment at halftime, I want to play some Saban audio here in a moment about adjustments at halftime. But before we do that, DC, what do you think the impact of the New Mexico State loss has on the Alabama-Auburn game this Saturday?
Well, I agree with X. I think it hurts Alabama. I think Auburn. I said to a friend of mine shortly after hearing the score, Auburn's going to come out and play like the Pittsburgh Steelers against us, and that's because I think that game, having that bad game there, makes them the underdog now, because their fans were against them. If you look at their message boards, they were wanting to fire Hugh Freeze. Everybody was upset, and now they're going to get them back in the corner, and they're going to get to play that underdog card, and they're going to get to make their season. They're going to get to erase that game and flush that game by beating Alabama. So I don't think anything good for Alabama comes out of them losing the way they did against New Mexico State. The people in Las Vegas set lines, and they've done it well over enough of the years that they're still in business. They don't set lines to lose. So that was really a blip on the radar for Auburn to get beat that bad at home by New Mexico State, and it's a game that I think that could harm Alabama, not help them.
X.
Yeah, I mean, that game just tells me that we're gonna be in a dogfight on Saturday. I will be extremely surprised if Alabama blows Auburn out in general, but especially now, considering what happened this past week. It's going to give them momentum. It's crazy. I think that loss can give them momentum heading into this game. And I know Coach Saban's going to be pressing hard all week, talking to the media about how they cannot take this game lightly. And even after an ugly loss to New Mexico State, Auburn's going to give you their best game.
And I'm on the other side of what you guys are saying. I think that I don't think it helps us from a national standpoint. I don't think it helps us in the college football playoff rankings or anything like that. I think it only hurts us there because if we play them close and don't beat them the same way New Mexico State does, it's going to hurt us. If Alabama doesn't win in convincing fashion, I think it hurts this team. I think this team is different. I think this team is built different. I think that link still goes on. This is one of the few Alabama teams that goes into this game with a chip on their shoulder. This team has felt disrespected before the season, during the season, and even now. And I think as a result of that, they are going to come in focused on this game better than Alabama has in a long time. I'm still looking for – I think the Tide do what they've done to the last three opponents. I really do. I think it'll be crazy early because of David talked about DC talked about the crazy momentum. I think Alabama's fast start will shut the crowd down. So I think we're going to still blow them out. And I can't wait to give my score. Speaking of that, on Friday, we will be having our show, but it'll only be on the live streams. So if you're listening on the radio right now and you want to catch the Alabama game, you need to go follow the Martin Houston 35 on Facebook so that you can get or the Martin Houston 35 fan page, Martin Houston 35 fan page, so you can get the broadcast because we will not be on the radio airwaves for Thanksgiving on Thursday and Friday, but we will do our show on Friday. So be a little different show that day. Let's get to Pat real quick. Pat, you're in on the Alabama One hotline with DC and X. What's on your mind, sir?
Yeah, guys. Hey, I think Auburn goes down to Louisiana and buys that witch down there, that Marie Laveau. She wears a crimson A down when she's in Louisiana, but I think Jimmy Rain has enough money to fill up those rust-fitted paint jars that she keeps her money in, and I think that he brings them to Jordan Hare. I think he really does, and he brings her there. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible place. I will never, ever go back there. We could be number one in the country.
Oh, come on now, Pat.
Favorite, and I'll never go back there again.
Never say never, Pat. You got to score in case you won't be on Friday. Go ahead, DC. What were you saying?
I said Pat must have been there for the kick stick.
It's a bad place, y'all. But look, Martin, I can't wait to hear your score on this thing. But I'm saying 38-17 Alabama. That we more than covered. The point spread's gone from 11.5 last week early to 15.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably because all the money's going in Alabama.
Alabama winning by 21, so I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, you're dead on that 21 points.
Jalen Miro. Jalen Miro passing.
Question: do y'all think that Auburn actually gave that game away last week just so that the loss? I mean, they're losing to us. Wouldn't give us any credibility with the committee?
Absolutely not. That dude's trying to build a program, and losses like that hurt your program. I mean, what
coach? He was trying to do everything to win. I don't think he was trying to lose.
What coach? Now, how he prepared? I do think that they probably spent all week on Alabama. Yeah.
But I will say that Coach Kill has kind of had Hugh Freeze's number. He's been the one coach that's given him trouble before and stopping his offenses, and I think that's a part of it as well.
Yeah, but
he beat Hugh Freeze at Liberty bad.
Yeah, but guys, New Mexico State versus Liberty versus New Mexico State versus Auburn. That This was a 40-plus point swing. This wasn't that's one of the largest swings ever. And you know,
I was just saying I don't think he was trying to lose the game. I think he was trying
absolutely not. Because if I'm a recruit right now, or I'm one of those grad, yeah. I have to get the break. I want to. Thanks, Pat. I'm going to comment, DC.
Okay.
People have stay tuned, Pat. But I'll let you go. We'll talk about it on the other side because we got to get the break. DC. People have tried to compare this loss to La Monroe in Alabama's first year.
No comparison. In the La Monroe game, we
DC,
had
hold on. No,
no.
DC, hold on. I got to get the break. I want you to think about this during the break so you can answer it on the other side because I don't want to have to shut the answer off. Just think about what makes these different. Why? Because they are bad losses in both coaches' first year. Why is this one different than what Alabama suffered? And will it have the same type of momentum building factor that Auburn fans who have responded to me are trying to say that this is going to do the same thing for their program that La Monroe did for Alabama? Will it? Will it not? Why is it different? We'll talk about that as well as a couple other things. We haven't got to the Chattanooga game yet, but we'll get there. More conversation on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we have a wreck on McFarland eastbound before Skyland with some delays. Please remember that we had a lot of rain overnight, so allow a little extra travel time. And if you see conditions folks need to hear about, give me a call. Townsend Nissan's year-end closeout is on now with discounts up to $10,000. No reasonable offer will be refused. Townsend Nissan, and I'm Captain Ray.
Hi, I'm Marty Lyons. When I come to Taco Casa, I always order the 2 and 2. 2 Sanchos, 2 enchiladas.
And I'm Wilkin Forby. And when I come to Taco Casa, I always order the Fantastic Four. 4 Sanchos, 4 enchiladas, 4 tacos, and 4 burritos.
Taco Casa is always made with the finest ingredients and made fresh when you order. So whatever the size of your appetite,
there's always something delicious waiting for you here at Taco Casa.
Taco Casa, under the biggest cactus in town.
This Alabama football season, join Kerry Clark, Mark McGriff, and Matt Coulter for the most comprehensive postgame coverage of the Crimson Tide. The Tide Postgame Show, live from Walk-On Sports Bistro. Walk-Ons, 675 Skyland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa. Scratch-made dishes, wall-to-wall TVs, burgers, bone-in wings, salads, and gumbo. The Tide 100.9 and 95.3 The Bear Tide Postgame Show will be live after every Bama football game. Catch Coach Saban's postgame press conference and the Walk-Ons keys to the game. Plus, we'll take your phone calls live. Walk-On Sports Bistro for the win. 675 Skyland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa. And online at walkons.com.
Gun season is finally upon us. We want you to win the biggest buck in West Alabama contest. If you score a big buck, take it to Hicks Taxidermy at 703 Main Avenue in Northport, and Hicks will measure to see if your buck wins our weekly contest. All weekly winners will be entered into the grand prize drawings at the end of deer season. Photos of weekly winners are posted on Town Square Media Tuscaloosa websites. Big Buck Bounty is presented in part by Tuscaloosa Ford, Dwayne's Towing and Recovery, North River Outdoors, Elite Recruiting, Tuscaloosa Tractor, Houghton's Deer Processing, and the official taxidermist of Big Buck Bounty is Hicks Taxidermist.
It's our best Black Friday ever at JCPenney. Line up early this Friday in store for giveaways all day. At 5 a.m., you could get a coupon up to $500 off. Keep shopping for a chance to win free diamonds at 1 p.m. and stay for one last giveaway at 5 p.m. One lucky winner gets their cart covered up to $500. Go to jcp.com to plan your best Black Friday ever. JCPenney, make your holidays count. Giveaways in-store only 11/24 while supplies last. One coupon per customer per event. Exclusions apply. Must be 18 or older. See store or jcp.com for details.
O'Reilly. Protect your engine better with Syntec Full Synthetic High Mileage Motor Oil. Only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec High Mileage is formulated for today's engines with over 75,000 miles. Now get 5 quarts of Syntec High Mileage and a MicroGuard Select Oil Filter for just $34.99. Limit supply. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Dangerous this week?
I can't answer that. I just can't answer that. I think you'd be better served to ask them, that question. But I think everybody pays attention when things don't go well, and they want to get it right. And I have enough respect, and we have enough respect that they'll probably do the same.
That was Coach Nick Saban talking about what happens after the Auburn loss. DC, we were having a conversation there as we went to break. People trying to compare these two losses. Is it the same? Why is it different? Will it have the same type of catapult experience?
Well, it's definitely not the same. The Louisiana Monroe loss and the New Mexico State loss are completely different. They're very distinguished from one another. In the Louisiana Monroe loss, Alabama had 4 turnovers. Then we had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. We actually played well in certain phases of the game, but because we couldn't overcome all the turnovers in the game. The New Mexico State game, nothing like that. They went down to Auburn, played in Jordan-Hare, and they beat Auburn in every phase of the game. They outrushed them. They outpassed them. There was no turnovers. Neither team had a interception or a fumble. The penalties were even. Both of them had 9 penalties, so there wasn't any officiating issues. It was just that New Mexico State was the better team that played that day. New Mexico State was 6 of 12 on 3rd down efficiency. Auburn 2 of 10. They were 2 of 2 on 4th down efficiency, and Auburn 1 of 2. So it was not a situation where it was a fluke. It was a situation where Auburn got beat in every phase of the game by New Mexico State. The Louisiana Monroe game was a fluke, if you will, in the sense that they didn't beat Alabama in every phase of the game. Alabama made so many mistakes that they couldn't recover and win the game.
Yeah, and in the La Monroe game, you can say if Alabama had done this or not did this, they would have won. There is no if in that.
In the New Mexico State game, at the line of scrimmage, Auburn even lost the line of scrimmage. And when you lose the line of scrimmage against New Mexico State, that's a team that's beating you, not a team that you are beating yourself.
Yeah, Xavier.
And then you look at Alabama had the guys suspended, 3 or 4 starters suspended. That game, it was a lot. It was a lot that happened in that game versus just flat out getting beat.
Yeah, Alabama had several starters and contributors out. One being DJ Hall was suspended for the first half of the game. So, but here, watch this. Nick Saban also just inherited a team. There was no transfer portal, NIL, or any of that going on either. So it's one thing for a coach to come in and get a team, and then another coach to bring in a team. You see what I'm saying? So there was a lot of other factors, and it was a 7-point loss versus a 21-point loss. So, and I don't think it's going to have the same effect. I do think Alabama is more than I like I said. I think what I think the loss did was probably give Nick Saban even more reason to prepare, or even more reason for this team to focus. Hey guys, you see that a team can come in, or you can go into another team's place, and if you're not ready to execute, then you can lose. And that's what I think happened to Auburn. So I think it actually helps Nick Saban and this team. They're proudly wearing their Lank shirts, and they still got naysayers out there about this team. So I think they're prepared to fight in a way they haven't in a while. Chuck, you're on the Alabama One hotline with DC and Xavier. What's on your mind?
Good morning to you all before Thanksgiving. I was just chiming in. You all was talking about the Iron Bowl. I say, yeah, it's rivalry week, and think about Alabama and Auburn and many other rival games during the time of Thanksgiving. And also, Brother Houston, while I have you on the phone, you talking about those guys, your former teammates doing quite well in the coaching ranks. I think about over in Fairfield, Alabama. Sam Shade is the head coach at Miles College, and also Antonio Langham was on the coaching staff
And another Alabama player from the 1970s under Coach Bryant on some of his great team. I think he was a teammate of Ozzie Newsome and those guys. George Pugh is on the coaching staff there. And yeah, Pugh used to coach at Alabama A&M. And I just wanted to point that out, that your Tide family members are doing quite well over in at Miles College. And but that rivalry runs deeper. I saw that when Auburn lost to New Mexico State. But I thought about it when I saw who's coaching New Mexico State, Jerry Kill. Think about him. He had great teams at Northern Illinois, and at he was at University of Minnesota. He has that kind of background as well.
Yep, absolutely. And thanks for that, Chuck. And kudos to all of my buddies and former teammates. And unfortunately, one of them came in to Bryant Denny last week as the defensive coordinator. Lorenzo Whammy Ward. He was the DC that got that beat down last week in Bryant Denny, DC. But as you look at reflecting back, DC, really quick on last week's game, what was your biggest takeaway regarding this team that also catapults, I think, this team forward in terms of their ability to take care of business with Chattanooga that you can put forward on this weekend's game?
Well, I think that they had the mindset going in that, yes, this is the next game on the schedule. They're going to concentrate on it and they're going to do their best. And they played a great overall performance. I mean, I give Tommy Reese credit for the play calling on offense and the team, the O-line, the running backs, the quarterback. Jalen did a great job of executing that game plan and took advantage of it. And you saw it right from the beginning. They had studied, they knew exactly where to attack them, and did it. And they kept it, and they kept the foot to the pedal. I think that's how fast you got to start. It's got to carry over to the next game at Auburn. You got to start that fast. You got to execute the game plan. And they did a good job of taking what the defense gave them. I think something they can learn from is the lapses that they had on defense. The only thing I think they need to learn, and it was a good time, was they got gashed on that one play, and it was just a lapse in gap coverage there. And it was because they had sped up the offense a little bit. And that's what Auburn does a good job of. So I think Saban can harp on that all week. So two things I think came out of that was the overall play of being ready to play, and then also capitalizing on your mistake that you made in that game, which were very few, but able to say, hey, this is what this team we're fixing to play does well. We got to guard against that. Be sound in our gaps every time.
X.
The performance last week was handling business the way that you should handle business, and that's what Alabama came out and did. Jalen was really sharp throughout the first half. We got to see some of the young guys like we wanted to. The only negatives I would take away is, Chris Braswell, what else are you supposed to do on that? What else are you supposed to do on that play when the quarterback's right there? I don't think it was targeting, but by the rule, it is. And then you turn around and you look at Ty's would-be 79-yard touchdown scamper that he drops the ball at the 1-yard line. Just a mental error right there from a young player. But overall, just a great performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't get me started on that targeting call. We don't have enough time for me to go into that.
Well, it was targeting according to the rule, which –
yeah, it was, but
stupid.
That official had that flag in his hand, ready to throw it, just looking, because everybody's reported Alabama to the SEC office. They've told them that's what I don't like. I like referees who go in with nothing on their mind and aren't looking for things, and they can find things. If you wanted to call holding, you'd call holding on every play if you were watching it like that with the flag in your hand. That's why I think it's a disproportion the way that referees are calling the games this year in the SEC.
Yeah, well, the key is it's the stupidest enforcement of any rule maybe ever, and it's gotten better. That's the crazy part. The fact that a player gets thrown out for that particular play is crazy. We would never throw a kid out for grabbing someone's face mask, which could break someone's neck, could guys aiming at guys' knees, all that stuff. It's the enforcement of the rule that needs to be fixed first. Next year, a kid should not be suspended. Now, if you get 2 targetings in a game, well, fine. It's just like personal foul or unsportsmanlike. Put it in that category. But to throw a kid out and then have the ability for that to carry over to the next game is the stupidest thing in sports. So
I just don't like the way this game football has evolved because it's all because someone is taking on, hey, we're going to do this to protect the player. But that is an erroneous argument because there's many other things on the football field that hurts the player much worse than that type of play. And if that's the criteria, then why even play in the first place? That's not what they're trying to do. It's just it's trying to show that they're trying to help the player, protect the player. They're not really trying to protect the player. That's why I just like that rule altogether.
Yeah, and it's not like I said. It's so stupid. That quarterback didn't move. He didn't do anything. You anticipate guys at least moving or going to the side trying to avoid it. This guy just stood there like he was frozen. And I think what's his name is anticipating him moving, and he would have just wrapped him up and hit him on the left side or the right side. But you always aim for the numbers. And anyway, stupidity. Coming back on stupidity, not by Braswell, but by the rule and the people who have allowed this to continue where kids are getting thrown out for that type of play. I can agree with even Brian Kelly on the stupidity of players being thrown out. They need to fix that rule. Coming back on the other side, we'll get DC's thoughts on the Iron Bowl. We'll look at, think about this in the break, DC. Which coordinator is most improved for Alabama? And did Kevin Steele get shafted by not being selected as the coach of candidate for Coach of the Year? We'll talk about it right here on the Martin Houston Show. Don't forget to go check out Alabama 1. Really mark tomorrow down. 4 hours only, 7 to 11, 6 for 6 CD, 6% for 6 months. No interest rate out there any better than that. You need to come in and take advantage of that or go online at alabama1.org. That's alabama1.org. One together, our Black Wednesday sale waiting on you to stop by on tomorrow right here on the Martin Houston Show. Tell them I'm telling you about it.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we have a wreck on 69 northbound near Martin Road in Northport and another on McFarland eastbound before Skyland and Tuscaloosa. A lot of water on the roadway. Slow down and be careful. If you see conditions, give me a call. Townsend Nissan's year-end closeout is on now with discounts up to $10,000. No reasonable offer will be refused. Townsend Nissan, and I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
But Tuesday morning, West Alabama Democrat Congresswoman Terry Sewell has presented Hale County with a more than $500,000 check to construct new storm shelters in Akron, Greensboro, Moundville, and Sawyerville. Sewell says the number of tornado touchdowns the last couple of years has made emergency preparedness critical. Sewell is seeking funding for more shelters for Hale and other West Alabama counties. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. It's free throughout the day. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Philip Ems, named for the great Choctaw tribal chief Philip Martin, is considered the best fine dining in the South. In addition to their award-winning wine selection, Philip Ems offers everything from steaks and fresh seafood to extraordinary decadent desserts. Philip Ems open Wednesday through Sunday. Book your table now at opentable.com and experience the best dining in the South. Philip Ems, exclusively at the Silver Star at the Pearl River Resort.
When you wake up well-rested on a great mattress, everything becomes clear.
My life coach has a terrible life.
Things you missed when you were tired finally reveal themselves.
My passport is in the pocket of the duffel bag I took to Mexico.
It's the Black Friday sale at Mattress Firm. Get a king bed for a queen price and save up to $700 on Sealy. Plus, get a free adjustable base with select mattresses. And if you see a better price, we'll match it. The right mattress matters. We'll find yours. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
The end of the half, the time is more about message, motivation, or whatever else.
No, I think it's a combination of both. You know, I love Bill, don't get me wrong, but I don't always agree with him. I didn't always agree with him when I worked with him for him. But anyway, and I'm sure he'll say he didn't always agree with me. But anyway, you know, we're making adjustments between every series. I mean, we're going over the previous series, whether it's offense, defense, or whatever. They ran this stunt, we didn't block it right, or, you know, they ran this formation, we didn't adjust to it correctly. But we also draw those things up as the game progresses, so we can actually show the players those plays and some of the things that they did, as maybe you've already covered it, maybe you didn't have a chance to cover it, but we kind of do both. And then if there's something different that we want to do, sometimes you don't like to do it until you can get everybody in front of you and you can explain it a little better than you can on the sidelines.
That's Coach Nick Saban talking about halftime adjustments, DC, and what Alabama does. And with that thought process in mind, which one of these OCs do you think should be being recognized as the coordinator or assistant coach of the year, whether nomination or ultimately going on to win?
Well, I mean, I think if you're talking about improvement during the season, no doubt Tommy Rees has made the most improvement during the season. But, I mean, I think Kevin Steele has brought something great. So you're talking about upgrading. I think we upgraded defensive coordinator, and I think we upgraded offensive coordinator for the year. I believe you can only nominate one. So I think he picked Tommy Rees based on his improvement in the season. I also think that
Hold on right there, DC. DC, how do we continue to give him credit for improvement when they refuse to me, the fact that we did what we did in the last 3 games should be a negative if I'm looking at it. But Saban knows that he was the one that was also controlling that narrative. I understand that, but
yeah,
I mean,
I think Saban thinks he handicapped him early on. I really do.
yeah, they did, no doubt. Go ahead.
But I also think that this is also should be just a hint. And I don't want to cause any controversy, but just a hint of how much Tavarius Robertson really has influence into the defensive coordinating. And I think it's a somewhat of a team effort there. And I think I've heard that from some of the players as well. But I think Kevin Steele is the defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that Tavarius Robertson has a really big influence on this defense as well.
I would totally agree with that. X, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Robinson has a big influence on the defense, but the defense has been pretty consistent, pretty solid all year long. Whereas, as you said, shouldn't it be a knock against Tommy Rees that they didn't change the offense to fit Jalen Milroe and what this season could have been? What, like, we look at Jalen has 31 total touchdowns on the season. That's with missing a game, and that's with running an offense that wasn't catered to his skill set until the last few weeks. In the last few weeks, he scored 13 of those 31 touchdowns. So you mean to tell me he could have been doing this all year long?
Yeah. So, and the way I look at it, but here's the biggest thing for me for both of these guys, and I think Steele does it better because he's been doing it longer. Is Saban talks about the adjustments and all of that. I'm not sure which way I prefer on the offense, but I love a defense coordinator up in the booth because they see things and they see everything and they make adjustments on the fly, and then they have a complete adjustment set time in the halftime, but they don't wait. When you're on the field, I think it can be hard sometimes to make adjustments during the game. That's why you would see Alabama just get torched over and over and over last year in the first half, and then they make adjustments, and then they get torched later on in the game if they got beat defensively under Golden. That doesn't happen with this group, and I think it is partly Steele. And also, I agree with T-Rob, but I also think the fact that you only have one defensive back coach has made all the difference in the world. I think that's why we had so many busts, because you had one guy coaching safeties, one guy coaching corners. I think T-Rob has done a masterful job in that sense. So I agree with the T-Rob statement there. DC, it's a big game. It's the Iron Bowl. What's Alabama's keys to victory?
Well, I think running the ball is the key to victory in this game against Auburn. That's if you're gonna win this game, you're gonna win the line of scrimmage and run the ball. I think it starts with the offensive line and starts with the quarterback's decision making and running backs. We got 3 now good running backs that we can work into the rotation. We ought to be able to push them and run the ball in this game. By running the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage, it's going to open up those big shot play action passes that Milroe is so good at. And we have some wide receivers that can get open, and we're going to have some explosive plays. So I think it starts with running the ball on offense, and it always starts with stopping the run on defense. If you can stop the run on defense for Auburn, their offense doesn't work. Their offense only works if they can run the ball and run it effectively. But if we can stop that run, their offense doesn't work. So I think that's the keys to victory. And then limit the mistakes and turnovers. Start fast and seize the momentum. I think you can seize the momentum by playing defense well, stopping the run, and you can seize the momentum by capitalizing and making big explosive plays by using those play action passes. I think that's the key to the game in this game. And I think if Alabama does that, they come away a big victory. I think it would have a 21-point game here this game.
DC, which running back you leaving out? You said we got 3 good running backs. Which one you leaving out? Just kidding.
Well, I said 3 good running backs rotation. I think Haynes and Young are great too, but I think in this Auburn game we're going to see a 3 running back rotation.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, the Haynes kid may be the best one, but and we'll get to see that more next year. DC, what you got for the?
I got Auburn winning 45-21.
45-21.
Oh, I'm sorry, 45-24.
24. And what's Jalen Milroe's passing yards?
289.
All right, DC. I know you like to always give a quick thought for Thanksgiving. You got about 20 seconds, sir.
Yeah, the Thanksgiving week is something we should all concentrate on. Believe it or not, wherever you are right now, wherever you're sitting and whatever's going on, we've got so many things to be thankful for. Just put things in perspective and look where you are this year. The only way we got there is by the grace of God. So we thank God for all his blessings. And, the best decision I ever made was following him and trusting him every day with my life. And I'm thankful for that.
All right. And we want to thank Karen Cottingham as a sponsor for DC Capstone Report. Karen Cottingham, 205-887-4008. Give her a call or go send an email at KarenCottingham@kw.com. Also, we want to thank RollTide.com and freelancepictures.com for making it possible to have DC on. Thanks, DC, and happy Thanksgiving. Hey,
happy Thanksgiving, X. Happy Thanksgiving, Martin.
All right.
Roll Tide.
Hey, remember this. Trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide out to everybody. We will be back tomorrow, and then we'll skip a day, and we'll be back broadcasting on the live stream availability only on Friday. For everyone, Roll Tide out there and have a blessed, prosperous, and successful day.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we have a wreck on